Hey, good morning, Hans. How's it going? Welcome to the channel.
Doing real well, thanks. Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, really excited to hear about the diode Google Drive killer, right?
Sure, yeah, Google Drive, Dropbox, Slack, Discord, sure.
Awesome, man. Yeah, I used the app a little bit. I was able to download the nodes and everything and get it running. It's really cool how it syncs between the computers. Got it running on the Raspberry Pi as a backup, so now I don't have to use Google
Nice.
Drive anymore. It's pretty cool. I was curious, would you mind giving us a little bit more background about yourself and Diode as well?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, Diode. So Hans Rempel, CEO of Diode. We started Diode a couple of years back as incubated at a previous company that I started called Exosite. And Exosite is one of the leading Internet of Things organizations in the world, probably top 15, like if you go by Gartner and Forrester and those type of analysts. But we, had discovered a technology at Exosite that allowed us to use kind of blockchain consensus technologies to do things like figure out if the time that you're getting from a server is accurate, connecting through a server without pre-shared trust. And so we took that technology, kind of that root, what we call the block quick algorithm, and put that into Diode. But my background is I'm a double E systems engineer and a serial entrepreneur. So been starting companies and typically around tech, high tech for quite a while now.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, I'm coming from a what do you call it, an SE background myself. So it's really cool to kind of talk to somebody who's really building some innovative products in the space. Would you mind kind of telling us more about the history of Diode and where did you and the co-founder Dominic come up with the idea, as well as sort of some of the issues that Diode hopes to solve in I guess the Web3 space, I guess you'd call it, or the Web2
Yeah, for
space.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, Web 2, Web 3, the internet, right? Um, yeah, so as I mentioned, we incubated some of the tech at Exosite, and Dominic and I had worked together at Exosite for about 7 years. He was running our platforms team at Exosite, and he's the kind of the guy who figured out the block quick algorithm, which allows any type of device, everyday devices, a phone, a laptop, and a sensor, a gateway, etc., to be able to trust a node in a blockchain. Typically, like a lot of people don't know this, but they think of blockchain as this big decentralized technology, but actually the on and off ramps are pretty much centralized. Like when you're interacting with a blockchain-based application, you're interacting with a server that's hosted by whoever's providing that application. BlockQuick throws all of that away and says you can actually trust any node that you find out there. And what happens is like the 7-layer model, you look at the presentation, the application layers,
Hmm.
is those layers never hit a managed server. They never hit a centralized server. And so the data topology model that is deployed with Diode technologies, that layer is way more secure because it's not sitting on somewhere that a support person has access to or that an IT administrator has access to. And also because it never hits kind of those areas that requires kind of some of the centralized resources, you can also basically do without those for very, very secure applications, which lowers the cost and makes it more accessible for people wanting to deploy really secure solutions.
Okay, well, that actually really goes into the next question I want to talk about. Sort of, what do you think the Diode customer base? Who's the target customer for Diode? Is it like for digital nomads, small companies? And how do you see this sort of scaling up to larger entities once it picks up popularity in the future?
Yeah, great question. Yeah, I lived all over kind of the world in the past as you have, but probably more outside the U.S. than in the U.S. And I've lived in all different types of internet paradigms, right? That some like free internet, some restricted internet, etc. And always had a number of VPNs on my system and that sort of thing to try to get access to the different services I needed access to, and kind of playing like whack-a-mole, trying to stay ahead of whatever environment that was. And so, at Diode, these technologies allow individuals as well as entities to have secure access to the IT assets and information, and also private access that they need. And so, while it's applicable across the board, we do want this to be accessible to individuals, but we're delivering the technologies kind of in a go-to-market approach to really small to medium businesses who need security, but maybe can't afford to, pay an IT consultant to achieve a certain level of security. And that is just because they're way more flexible, small to medium businesses are, than an enterprise. Enterprise buying behavior, they change slowly. They want to make sure they're afraid of like blockchain, type of thing. And so there's just a lot more inertia. But on the other side of the coin, if you look at certain like larger entities, like defense entities and that sort of thing, who have cybersecurity arms, some of those organizations are using Diode already because they're inherently, they're at first very concerned with security. And so, the larger enterprise from a commercial space will probably come later. Small to medium businesses and kind of those digital nomads and freelancers who want more privacy and security are people who are already using the system, and I think we probably scale earlier.
Awesome. Yeah. So looks like you're going for sort of digital nomads at first, pick up some acceleration, get some small companies, and in the meantime, you guys already actually have some partnerships going on in the background with some. What did you say? Some government entities, or what were you saying just now? Sorry.
Yeah. So they're not really partnerships. They're more like commercial deployments that are using Diode. And we didn't actually even know about this initially, but we've been already put through some pretty interesting vetting by a defense agency and also by a large telecom carrier to verify, because they can't have managed servers in the middle of accessing certain assets, either in a facility or in the field. They can't have a managed server, but yet you need some sort of server in order to gain access to that, because if they don't have like a static IP address that you can connect with. And so they saw Diode, all of our server tech is open source, which is kind of the gold standard in security. And so they're able to audit it, and they're able to look at that. And so, so really interesting, applications already kind of in a high security space, and things that we think will probably gain more traction over time.
I see. Well, actually, this kind of came up, brought another question to my mind, just on the moment right now. But would you kind of compare Diode to sort of almost a Tor functionality when it comes to a sort of Tor Dropbox sort of functionality, where you're not actually going through necessarily the internet, you're going through a tunnel, going through separate Diode nodes to connect to each end client? So that's kind of how you're able to provide this sort of security, but at the same time, the opposite end isn't a nefarious actor like you would be with Tor. It's actually somebody that you trust. Is that a good comparison?
Yeah, you can kind of think of it that way. Diode is inherently a tunneling network at a low layer, so that it can tunnel pretty much any protocol, including VPN type protocols, over that. And it is inherently a self-custody solution. And so exactly as you're saying, that the actors within your kind of sphere of influence have some sort of explicit permissions to interact with each other, because typically you'll have some level of relationship with the devices on the different ends.
Okay, nice. That's pretty cool. Actually, I just came up with another question. What if you want to team up with your friends and store some like special files, but you want to have a backup, but you want to be encrypted to only your clients, but you want to store it on your friend's server and kind of share that space with each other? So that way you always have a backup, but your friend can choose whether or not to sync it. If it's a huge file, they can choose not to sync it, and you can see a notification on your own screen. But then you can kind of back up your really important files in multiple locations without having other people able to read it. Is that planned for the future, or?
Yeah, exactly. So today that is a common use case, except for the fact that we don't today yet support, so we call them team members, or these devices that are part of your zone, your kind of collaboration perimeter. We don't today support an encrypted file being stored on one of your team members' systems that they can't see. The one exception to that is with direct messages and chat. We do use the zone members as relays, so that if, like, you're in Tokyo, I'm in Oregon, if you're offline when I'm online, and vice versa, we're never going to be able to talk to each other, right? If we just tunnel directly. And so, but if we have a zone with multiple team members in it, they will relay messages, but all DMs and all content in DMs is encrypted on their devices. And so they're relaying on behalf of, it's still isolated to the zone perimeter, but even on those for DMs, they're encrypted. We will be supporting what we call availability peers, which these availability peers for files, they will be only encrypted. They won't be able to see the files themselves unless they have the encryption keys. And so that is planned for the future. I would guess we're probably 3 to 6 months out on that. It's not complicated, but it's just in terms of demand, in terms of road mapping.
True, and I mean, technically, you could encrypt the file on your computer, put it on the Teams file, and then that's another way to do it, right? But that'd be cool if you could do it natively.
We want to move the threshold so that the grandmothers can do it, or grandfathers can do it.
Yeah, I think it's a great family tool as well. Back up all of your family photos. I mean, you have iPhotos, but all the time my iPhone's photos are getting like out of order, and I can't really trust their servers to keep things in order or even keep them necessarily. And also, privacy is an issue as well.
Yeah, I use it for all of my family photos and events. We run a trail run yearly here in Oregon, and pictures and stuff that people take from the event, they just put onto the Diode zone that we have to organize that. And it's a great way to kind of do that, with being able to ensure people who you're working with, ensure the privacy of their pictures.
That's true. I use the Diode chat service, and I was typing something, and then I mistyped and pressed enter, and then I realized I couldn't delete it. It's kind of like written on the blockchain, I guess you could call it. I don't know if it's on the blockchain necessarily.
No, it's not on the blockchain. We're going to be supporting edit and delete. We just released group chat like last week. So we have images, copy paste coming, pinning. So all cool. The kind of the standard, Slack replacement stuff. The difference is, like with Slack, like they only give you 90 days, right, for your messages, because they're centralized service and they have to maintain those servers. We're self-custody, and so we can give you infinity. It's like as much as your systems can handle, and you'll never lose data for way lower cost than something like Slack.
That's awesome. And I'm going off script again, but I had one more question. How does the blockchain, you guys run a blockchain as well in the back end, right? How does that relate to the sort of relaying of messages, just for the viewers here? How do they connect and overlap? And is it Web 2.0 plus Web 3.0 kind of added together?
Yeah, no, you're asking some great questions. Yeah, so the blockchain is really what enforces the identity and the connections between the team members. And so your identity is registered on the chain, not like your identity, but your basically your public key, right, for your wallet. Every entity interacting with the Diode network has an Ethereum address, and that is both your address as well as your public key that is used for credential authentication. And so the blockchain settles that piece. But after that's settled, there's some routing capabilities. Like we've integrated a very high efficiency routing and communications API into the nodes. And so that is there. But then everything above really the routing layer is application specific. It's tunneled through to the peers to the zone, and then the aggregate capabilities of the zone kind of dictate how the application works from there, and the application logic, obviously. So that's how we use the blockchain. One thing I tell some people is like the one thing that blockchain has proven, if nothing else, is that people will put a lot of server assets online in order to mine tokens. And and what BlockQuick does is that people are putting all these server assets online. What BlockQuick does is say, hey, like now there's a way that you can trust them to be able to route these secure encrypted tunnels through those nodes. and leverage that bandwidth and leverage those compute resources to be able to act as a routing network for the system. So really the routing network and the credential authentication is done on the blockchain, but the rest of the thing is really like a local first application deployment. And what was your second question? Yeah.
Oh, that was I think the main question. I was kind of how are the two intercorrelated, I guess, is what I was asking.
Yeah.
So that initial code that you put in, what was it, 20 characters? I can't remember. That's actually on the blockchain as well, or is it just the private key that's on the blockchain? When you first set up the account.
Yeah, so when you first set it up, yeah, right. So there's a thing called we call it BNS, like a blockchain name system, versus a DNS, and you can set a friendly name for an Ethereum public key. So whenever you put an account name in, it's a pseudo anonymous name. You know, you can put any name in there you want, but is human readable, so it then actually is registered to your Ethereum public address. But after you do that, then you're given kind of standard, like if you use MetaMask or whatever other type of wallet, you're given a seed phrase or a backup code to be able to restore your private key if for some reason you would lose your wallet. And so maybe that's also the code you saw there, but it would ask you to save that backup code. It's like basically a seed phrase.
Backup code, okay, and it's in numbers instead of the words on that one. Okay, so you guys just use a different algorithm kind of to figure it out.
Totally, you got it.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, cool.
Yeah, we debated on using words, but we decided to go with this for now.
Okay, yeah, sounds fair. I was curious, dive more into the sort of Dropbox killer idea here. There are many Dropbox killers out there, such as Siacoin, filecoin, etc., etc. What makes Diode different, and how have you been able to make a working Dropbox replacement where it seems many of these products have failed? For example, Siacoin, I mean, they have a couple petabytes, I think, of data stored right now, but they're having all sorts of legal issues, you know, storing files on other people's computers, and all, like if you have, you know, child porn or whatever it is on somebody else's computer, and then they get caught with that, are you liable for that? But I think Diode fixes this in many ways. Would you mind diving deeper into that for us?
Yeah, you know, it's a great question. I think one of the things, like if you're driving a taxi and someone else brings their car and offers a better service to like give you a ride, like that's a pretty high asset value that you're leveraging there. I think one of the challenges for storage when you try to use a third-party marketplace to provide like storage, like cheaper than a centralized provider, is storage is like the commodity of all commodities. Like you can go down to Best Buy and get a terabyte thumb drive now for like nothing.
Yeah.
You know, and so trying to create an incentive for a third party to provide their unused storage at cheaper than someone can just get a centralized big bank rack of storage for.
Yep.
I think is you introduce quite a bit of frictional elements to something that is not that valuable.
And in 5 years, it's going to be even less valuable, right? So.
Yeah, and then this frictional element, and then also you're not really solving the custody problem, as you mentioned. Like there's probably like legal custody issues with that, as well as people touching the data, even though it is stored in encrypted buckets. There are people involved with managing that data. Whereas Diode, we just say, look, like we're not touching data. We don't have a third-party network that's doing it. It's basically your own devices that you already have storage on that you're leveraging. And by the way, no one's touching the information in the middle. There's no third parties, it's a very, very low cost. So we don't try to solve the trying to find a third party that is going to provide a bunch of storage for you for cheaper than Dropbox can. The other big thing too is, like, I don't know if you've ever ran a like an IPFS or a SIA node.
Yeah,
but
I have.
They're pretty heavy.
They are.
And so just like that piece alone, like when you run Diode, the Diode app, it's like a 20 meg file, application, and it's super efficient, and it is fully chain validated. Like it's not mining, but you're interacting directly with the blockchain, and it's super lightweight. And so every team member, every device that you have as part of your zone is basically like itself,
Yeah.
but it's like, you can deploy 50 of them if you want yourself very, very easily.
So without miners, how do you guys kind of secure the network? I heard there was some sort of mining going on, but it's very lightweight and it's not super. It's just CPU mining, right? How do you guys like confirm that there's no malicious actors who can kind of control the blockchain that you guys are running in the background?
Yeah, so when we launched our pre-net, so it's an Ethereum clone, so it definitely has mining, right? There's definitely mining going on.
I see people do it in the chat rooms all the time. They're like, "Where do I get what is it, Raspberry Pi 4 miner?" I was like, "Oh, nice."
There actually are some people actually mining with Pi on the network.
Yeah.
But yeah, hardcore, man. But yeah, so there's mining going on. And when we first launched, it was all proof of work. And one of the vulnerabilities for early chains, especially when you start getting a little bit of popularity, is there's a ton of mining capacity running around, and especially if you're an algorithm that's similar that they can run easily. And you can get overwhelmed with a 51% attack. And so that was an issue. And so we did some research on that and created something that we call proof of stake work. And so it's basically still uses kind of the tried and true proof of work, but we multiply it by the power of your stake. And so it uses something that is known secure, as long as you're not experiencing a 51% attack, but then it is then giving the winner, whoever has actually succeeded at mining that, or giving the miners a power, like it reduces the complexity of their problem by the power of how much they're locking up in stake their diode token. And so when we did the tokenomics for the network, we calculated how long we thought it would take to get decentralization in our miners and like a really healthy ecosystem that would prevent a 51% attack externally. And we have internally, I think it's maybe 10 miners online that diode hosts that are highly staked. And so it would be very hard to kind of have a straight proof of work attack against it, just because of the proof of stake work algorithm.
Oh, I see. So someone would have to buy probably 200 or 300 super high power PCs and then run those for 2 or 3 years in order to get enough diode. And by that time, you guys would kind of catch on to what's going on and you could counteract it somehow.
Yeah, I think it's 10,000. Yeah, miners would have to.
Oh,
you'd have to have a lot of miners. Put it this right now, you max out when you have 50,000 diode stake, you max out at a 2,500 multiple.
Oh, okay. And there's no way to buy a diode right now, right? There's no sale or there's nothing going on.
You gotta earn it.
You gotta earn it.
Yeah. We're probably gonna bring a bridge online so that you can get diode. But today there is no bridge. People are interested in collaborating on a bridge. I'd be happy to talk to them.
Okay, yeah, I mean, that sounds great. I think getting miners is a great way to increase customer base as well, because everyone gets excited about the technical side of things. So, but I think you guys want to continue building the project a bit more, it seems like, before you focus too much on that part. Yeah. But it works now, so I mean, I was using it. I put it on my Raspberry Pi, and I think there's a Raspberry Pi data center. You can just throw it a terabyte thumb drive, like you said, on there, put it in a data center, and you basically have a terabyte backup that would cost you $30 instead of paying Google, how much, hundreds of dollars a year for that. So, all right, so my final question I have for you was actually, do you have any more sort of questions you'd like to answer for anybody who wants to learn more about Diode? Is there anything you want to say to the viewers?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, we're a small team. We're kind of, as the technology decentralized today, but we're growing. We definitely have needs for, I would say, people who share our passion for kind of private, secure, decentralized collaboration, communication, and connectivity. And so if you're interested in doing that, we do have a bounty program that if you do things that, if you publish, for example, a GitHub project that interacts with the Diode network, or you want to help us on a feature for one of the capabilities, we have the majority of our network and CLI, et cetera, is all open source. And so we encourage people to go out to GitHub, look for Diode Chain, and kind of get involved. And we'd love to send you a bounty reward. And yeah, also, always looking to expand the team. I think right now we have a pretty significant need for some talented ecosystem and marketing people or talent.
Yeah.
So if folks are involved, we really want to solve hard problems using the best in class technologies available from the blockchain. And if you kind of share that mindset and you understand the technologies and understand or see how Diode is solving some real world problems, and you have kind of that marketing or ecosystem bent, like, yeah, get in touch. Like, I'd love to talk to you and see if we can collaborate together. We are raising right now a small kind of private placement pre-seed round. So if people are interested to invest, you can get in touch and talk to me about that as well.
Pre-seed. All right. Cool. So they get in touch with you for that?
Yeah.
Via Telegram, I guess.
Yeah.
So I'll go ahead and leave a link in the description if anybody is interested in the pre-seed. Feel free to just jump in the Telegram, and yeah. I'm really excited for Diode. I mean, it's been a great product for me so far. I mean, it's obviously a work in progress, but for the backup portion of your files, it works the same as Google Drive right now. So yeah, it's great.
That's great. Yeah, I hope everybody gets a chance to use it. I think like in 10 years, the way that some of the self-custody and the tunneling stuff that we've put in place will be a de facto way that a lot of the internet works. I think this block quick algorithm, it can be applied to any blockchain out there. So any consensus-based blockchain can use block quick to enable normal devices and phones and sensors to authenticate directly with the canonical chain. And that is something I think should be in every single blockchain out there, and would love to talk to you if you're doing a blockchain project and would like to integrate BlockQuick into your project as well.
For sure. I mean, I'm very excited for the project. But anyways, we are out of time for today. So nice to have you on the show here, Hans, and thank you for explaining Diode to us.
Awesome. Thanks, Mac.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Have a good day.
Take care. Bye-bye.
See you.